screen, hopefully. Okay, are you ready to go, folks?
I'm ready. If you're ready.
Okay, I just wanted to say these are the results of our PHAA graduate survey that we did just recently. And we were interested in the three primary reasons why people homeschool their children: learning, better learning, values, that we teach our values to our children, and family, closer families. Our board member, Timothy Anger, who's right there on the screen, compiled the survey and put together these graphs. Um, I'll be putting up the graphs, but Timothy will be explaining that, and we'll all come on in when we have different, anything to say, any comments. And I know I have a lot, and Laszlo has a lot, and we hope that those of you in the audience have a lot also. So without any further ado, let me proceed to the first graph.
You might want to mention when we had the last survey and how this is a comparison to it.
We've done about 5 surveys, but we haven't done one. There hasn't been a survey of our students or graduates since 2004. The last one was done by a doctoral dissertation. In the past, our surveys were done by mail. This is the first time we did one by email.
So this one, we opened it up. We sent an email and encouraged them to respond to a Google Forms survey. And we tried to include questions that were very similar to ones we had used in previous surveys so we could compare the results. 213 PHAA graduates responded. Now in the pie to the right, the largest section there is actually the recent dates, 215 to 219. So more recent graduates responded, and partly that's because we had better email addresses for those, but they did share it with some of their older siblings. So we do have the smallest piece of this pie would be the students before 2010, and then the orange slice there is 2010 to 2014. So kind of broke it up by 5-year sections. But that was a good result. Over 200 graduates responded to these questions. So I guess we can go to the next slide. And as Dr. Richmond just mentioned, those were the 3 key areas. This next section here is how did PHAA students, what did they do during high school, and what were some similarities? In the next slide, we can see that one of the main things that they used was courses taught by a co-op teacher. Over half of them, 105, did co-ops, and then a high percentage as well, not a percent, but 100 of the 213 students did dual enrollment college courses. So that was also very high, and quite a few did the AP courses. CLEP, not so much. Courses offered through an online school, that was about a fourth of the students. But you can see a lot of supplementary materials here that PHAA students use during high school.
One of the things to note on this, Tim, is you look at the AP courses and the dual enrollment ones. Those courses help some of our graduates to either skip a year or to be placed into higher level courses at their universities.
Right.
And this is significant because this puts them ahead of their peers, and it also is a money saver. If you're able to skip a year of college, that's quite a sizable savings for the families. So this is significant to see how many of our students took advantage of both the dual enrollment and the AP courses.
Yep, good point.
I have something I want to say about the co-op courses. I just briefly want to show you our PHAA website. If you scroll down on the website, you find a link to right down here to click here for a list of support groups from all across Pennsylvania. Maybe there's a group near you. A lot of those support groups have co-ops. Here's what you get if you click on that link. It's a PHAA support group listing, and you can click on a county and you can see what all the support groups are in that county. This is Allegheny County around Pittsburgh. So you can find a lot of these are support co-ops that meet once and occasionally more than once a week, but usually once a week to share learning together. So this is all on our FAA website, and if you know about a co-op group, there's a way to submit it by at the top. Click here if you would like to submit or update your support group's listing.
Okay, next slide. So we asked the FAA graduates, how did you feel your homeschool education helped you? And quite a few said the big advantage was it really did help them do well in college. Sometimes parents think if my student homeschools, they're not going to be as well prepared for the rigors of college. But these students said, nope, that was great help. The Head Start was, as Laszlo just mentioned, actually having some courses under their belt that counted toward college before they got there, like dual enrollment. Occupation and even qualifying for scholarships, all of these things they found helpful.
Something we might want to note there that something that FAA does, which is not a requirement in homeschooling in general or even high schools, is the intense work of reading. We require far more reading than the high schools do and the other homeschooling programs does, and the research papers. And the most critical skill in college is the ability to write well. And so FAA really gives them a step up in that regard for being better prepared for college than other graduates. And it is noteworthy that those homeschoolers who apply to colleges often have a demanding rigmarole to go through to validate that they're credentialed sufficiently. However, from personal experience, I can testify that when you note that your child is a graduate of the FAA program, that immediately helps in admissions. As a matter of fact, it makes for immediate admissions on the spot. And I went through that personally with one child. So for admissions, it's significant. And
I think I froze up.
Next slide.
Wait, I have a few things to say. By the way, as far as succeeding in your occupation, we've had a lot of comments in past surveys about kids who didn't go to college and how homeschooling really helped them succeed in their occupations. For example, in our 1999 survey of parents of graduates, one parent said, use the last 2 years of high school to search out careers, use career pathways, aptitude tests, work in some field of interest, and do an apprenticeship. Our daughter was able to ride along with emergency medical technicians in an ambulance. She then became interested in this field and is now attending training classes. Another parent wrote, because B was homeschooled, he was able to work at G Heating, air conditioning, and plumbing during the day at the end of his sophomore year. He worked full-time for them each summer and learned the heating trade during school hours. He was able to accomplish his academics that he needed and learn a trade by the time he graduated. He was hired full-time out of high school and also has full-time employment at the same company when he graduates from Bible school. And another wrote, homeschool was right for D. He was and is an antsy kid. He needed to get his hands into real work. His building projects just continued to grow. His last 2 to 3 years, we allowed him to find neighbors who were remodeling and building, and they told their friends. And another parent wrote, we would encourage all homeschooling parents to pursue apprenticeship as an alternative to college. It's a lot of work, but so is homeschooling. It is a much better way of learning. You might be amazed to find out professionals are willing to work with you on developing a program. Since graduation, this student apprenticed as a midwife for 3 years and now is a self-employed midwife with registration and certification.
All right. And then this is, how did the actual diploma program help you? And by far the most was as we've already talked about, somewhat going through the application process and just having the PHAA credentials standing behind them helped colleges in accepting their paperwork. And one of the ones down there, promotion at work, I know Mr. Richmond has mentioned in our board meetings that they frequently get phone calls from companies who are just verifying that someone did indeed graduate from high school, and they're able to confirm that. So that's a benefit of having a diploma.
Yes,
Another one there, acceptance
I
into
get,
the military.
I
go
get
ahead.
those. Go ahead with the military.
I know acceptance into the military. I personally, as an evaluator, have tried to help a couple of students who graduated by homeschooling but did not have a diploma program behind them. They just had a parent issued diploma, and the military was not very willing to take them in unless they did some college work first or got a GED. But having the PHAA diploma program opened that door. So that was a benefit to them.
Yes, I'd like to expand a little bit on promotion at work. As Tim mentioned, we get calls approximately 2 or 3 per week from people who are checking on the credentials of people who are seeking promotions. And sometimes it's people seeking job applicants. What they do is they look over the resume and they make sure that everything on the resume is accurate. So if a student says they graduated from Pennsylvania Homeschoolers Accreditation Agency, we're able to then tell them, yes, just over the phone. This doesn't require us sending a transcript. We also send a transcript which proves that they graduated from PHAA. And those transcripts help in the college application process all along. And the evaluators now in the PHAA program can send off those transcripts. They come replete with a cover letter, the transcript list of grades and courses and the GPA, and it also has all the evaluation letters attached. And our evaluators write narrative evaluations, which often tell about the excellence in the homeschool program. So those evaluation letters recommend the student. Plus, we have an excellent reputation. We have such a good reputation with Penn State University that they have yet to reject a single one of our graduates, to my knowledge. Sometimes they don't get in at the central campus, but they do get in at the branch campuses at least.
So then we asked a series of questions about their education after high school. And in the next slide, we can see the question I think that we asked was, what was the type of college they attended first after they finished high school? And so quite a few, 29% did a 4-year private college or university right out of high school, or a 4-year Christian liberal arts college or university. And then 21% even had the 8% right out of high school.
We might want to note that those who attend community college often did so as just preparatory for going to a 4-year college. It was just their way to get their feet in the door.
Right.
Now, we've done other surveys where we've asked for a type of college. In fact, actually, it wasn't us. There was a doctoral student who's now the director of admissions, the executive director at Delaware Valley University. His name is Tammys Comments, and he did his 2004 doctoral dissertation based on a survey of our seniors, kids who hadn't yet graduated, but it was at the end of the year, and it was about what colleges they were going to attend and why. And back then, the numbers were very similar. The main difference, the main thing that was very similar was the high percentage who went to Christian colleges. Turns out that in the general population, only 7% of students go to Christian colleges. According to our most recent study, 24% go. And according to Tom Speaksman's doctoral dissertation, 29% were going to go to a Christian college, a 4-year Christian college. There's a very high proportion there.
Okay, next slide. We asked if you pursued college education, what was your main field of study? So we left out of this students who did not pursue college, but if they did go to college, 26%, so that's the largest category. There would be the science, math, computer engineering, or what we call STEM. And then a high percentage as well in medical, nursing, and healthcare. So you put those two together, and that's 41%, which is pretty high. And then you can see the other categories working the way around the graph there, including English and or elementary education, that kind of a thing.
One thing that struck me is how many homeschoolers are going into practical fields where they can get good jobs. And I think what we've also seen is they don't go to college right away at a very high percentage. About half of our graduates go to college right after graduation. This is the result of several of our surveys. But by 4 years after graduation, 75% have gone to college or some form of higher education. And I think what they're doing is they're waiting until they actually know why they're going to college. And some parents wrote in a response to our 1999 survey about how they helped their kids pick their major. And she wrote, have high school students interview people in different areas of business in order to help them gain understanding of what they might want to study in college.
One of the things I think with the high percentage of technical degrees, that is counterintuitive, which what most people think of as what homeschoolers pursue. I think most people think that homeschoolers overwhelmingly pursue the liberal arts or the softer majors. Well, not in PHAA. And I think that the pursuit of the technical majors has something to do probably with parents advising them, and they're being careful to be responsible to get degrees, and that they're actually provide for themselves.
Yep. Another question we asked them was, what was the highest degree of education? And of course, we had a lot of younger recent graduates, so they were still in their bachelor's degree program or had recently finished their bachelor's degree. So those were the highest, but quite a few moving on to master's degree, doctorates, 7% two-year associate's degrees. And only 9% of the students we surveyed did not pursue a college degree after high school.
This, by the way, is an extraordinary percentage compared to what you look at of graduates coming out of public high schools, for instance. An extraordinarily high percentage.
All right, then we ask questions about their current employment or career paths that they've chosen, what they're currently doing as of the time of the survey. On the next slide, we see, as to be expected, a lot of them are in college. Those who have gotten out of college, the largest category there, 27% were white collar jobs, office management type of thing, 7% self-employed, and 5% in healthcare. Those were some of the highest categories. Anything you want to add in there, Howard?
Nope.
Okay. And then let's see, Laszlo, I think this is your category here, your section, the questions related to family and values.
And if we go back to the 3 reasons people homeschool, it's the quality of the learning, very often so that they can tailor the learning to their children, to focus it. And the other one is to promote family and to promote values. And as you'll see from the slides, these demands are met by the PHAA program. And here's the first one. And this has to do with Do children stay connected with their parents? And look at the numbers there. 31% are living with their parents even at this time. Now, there's something to be said, to be careful there. Statistically, about half of college graduates are living with their parents as a norm. And another thing to consider, now, but that means the other half do not. So this proximity, the parents may have some other reasons, but it's important that the graduates are close to their parents and look at how proximate they are. They live in their home. They're only a few hours away. Uh, so there is a maintained connection between our graduates and their parents and their families, as you'll see. And this, again, is a confirmation of the intent of the parents, which is to build and prompt strong family cohesion. Next, please.
Well, before you go on, even though it's our students have moved really far away from us, they live all over the country where they found jobs, and all over the world. One of them lives abroad. We stayed in touch. We have a family Zoom meeting each Sunday afternoon, and they are attending regularly, all of our kids, and of course my wife and I, and some of our grandkids too have been attending, and it's been a great way to stay in touch with each other. And that's the kind of thing that closer family leads to.
Amen. And let me confirm that our family does the same thing. Our sessions are on Monday. And in this pandemic, it's amazing what the new normal allows for us to do, which is to connect with family literally that is worldwide or across the US continent. And it's not only the ability, but it's the commitment and the desire to maintain the relationships. All right.
Shall I continue?
And, yeah, continue if you would, please. This is a parallel. First, we talked about the parents, and there is that connection, and it's overwhelming. The connection with parents is weekly communications. Why don't I just hit on that a little bit harder? Tim, would you please go back one slide, or Howard? Not that one. Well, not that one. It's the one after that. This one. No, it's the one of frequency of communicating with parents. There we go. Look at that. If you look at how often children are talking to their parents, that's amazing. And I suspect if we talk to our neighbors, that's not always the case. But within the context of PHAA graduate families, there it is. And again, let me just say, I think that gives joy and delight to parents, because we really have a special relationship with these children that we've lived with all day, 24 hours a day, which is not what the normal situation is. So next slide, please, Tim. Okay, now if you look at this, it's a parallel. Siblings. One of the delights I think that each of us has in our families is that our children are still close to each other. They're bonded and they connect with each other. This confirms that. And Howard talked about how do that. It's children, but it's siblings as well. Again, very, very large percentage. And again, that confirms the fulfillment of a desire that we have to maintain the cohesion and the bonding and the love within families.
I think this is the big, big winning thing about homeschooling, closeness of family. If you want to have a close family, homeschool. Your kids become each other's friends instead of just having friends in their school peer group and seeing their younger siblings as annoying, as so many school students do. This is the big winner. close family. Education is big too, better education. And so is values, as we're going to get to soon. But closer family is the big
which we'll
winner.
close
When
with.
you're around your family, you get
Right,
closer to your
next slide,
friends.
please. Yeah. Now this has to do with when did they marry? And again, let me just give you some facts. Back in the mid 80s, average age for marriage for female was 24, for male was 26. This year, based on something I just looked up this morning, average age for women first time marriage is, and you're going to be surprised, 31. Average age for males this year, 33. That is a huge, huge change. 7 years on both for both genders. And you say, well, what's going on? Well, what's going on is one, I mentioned it earlier, college students are now taking 6 years to get a diploma. So they're extending that out. And if they're waiting to get established, well, they're getting established later. Also, there are more people who are now in quote partnerships rather than in marriages. So sometimes they go through serial partnerships until they get to the point where they choose to marry. We have a different social ethic now. So these are contributors. But if you look at our numbers here, they're not quite parallel to what's going on. You see, they're not married yet, about 70%. Well, they're not married yet because they're in schools primarily, or 49% in this case, I guess.
So, no, 7% is within the first year. This doesn't include those who aren't married.
Yeah, that's right. So you can see how our young people are entering into their new family units, where you'll see in a moment, many of them will want to homeschool, which brings us to the next slide.
All right. I'd like to look up one graph from a
Dan,
1999 survey before we go on.
Can you move us to the next slide?
Well, just before we go on, I'd like to go to this graph because I think it gives an idea of what it supports what we were saying. This is the percentage who were married from that survey, first year out of high school, second, third. By the fourth year out of high school, 30%. By the fifth year, 42%. By the sixth year, about 50%. And by the seventh year, 57%. So it goes along very precisely with what is being said here.
Well, just hold that slide for a moment. Remember the number I said today. On average, 32%, or the average age for marriage now is 32 years of age. That's male, female. And look at this number. 7 years after, over half of our graduates are already married.
I think it's because they value marriage. They have had a good example of a marriage from their parents for the most part. And they also want to have children.
Well,
they value children.
That's right. There's a presupposition that if you're homeschooling, almost always it has to be in the context of a family setting, because who are the primary educators in homeschooling? Wives/mothers. And if you don't have an integrated family, you are not going to be able to homeschool unless there's a strong exceptional situation. Homeschool is predicated on strong, solid family units. And our children get that picture. Okay. If we could go back to the next slide here, Hart. Now, this confirms it. This indicates that the majority of our graduates were happy with their homeschooling experience. A large percentage of them. And there's a percentage that were not. But I would say that the percentage that were certainly supersede the percentage that was not.
I think I think you're misinterpreting very unlikely to homeschool. There are a lot of reasons. We did Tom Speakman had the question just like this in a survey of PHAA seniors. Now these are PHAA graduates, while Tom Speakman, the doctoral dissertation, who's now an admissions counselor, his was of PHAA seniors at the end of the senior year. And he found out the reason why they wouldn't homeschool. There were two reasons. One is they felt it was too much of a financial burden. And the other is that they were concerned about the lack of interaction with other students and an inability to develop meaningful relationships. There were about a quarter of the students were unlikely in his survey to get married, but the three quarters who were likely, they gave the following reasons. The largest reason was customized individual education. The second was maintain Christian values and beliefs. The third was maintain closer family relationships. Again, those are our three big draws from this study that we're talking about today. Customized individual education, that's the education. Maintain Christian values and beliefs, that's values. And third, maintain closer family relationships. They knew, those seniors in high school knew about the three big advantages of homeschooling.
I appreciate that. That's very helpful and supports the figures there. Okay, now we get into the values next. The value that you cited there was maintaining the Christian values, and look at the percentage here of those who are attending services. My goodness. It's the overwhelming majority. Overwhelming. And let me compare that to another statistic that Barna came up with. Barna does surveys of religious issues, and the prediction there is that of those who have professed faith in high school while they're at home, 75% of them fall away from their faith once they leave home. Look at this number. Total counterpoint to it. Total. And the other things that they've come up in these surveys about young people retaining their faith, the two most critical pieces are, one, that they see it worked out in their families. The more that the parents are involved actively in their faith, the more that the children are going to be sustained in it, and the more that the parents are prepared to give an apologetic for their faith, that is rational, reasonable explanation where they can address those who would contend against their faith, the stronger they are to youth groups. And again, there, if they're getting more than just videos and pizza, if they're getting strong teaching, especially teaching which is prepared to answer skeptics, the stronger their probability of maintaining their faith. So this is a remarkable counterpoint to what is going on in many churches, many synagogues, where again, a large percentage are walking away from their faith after they graduate. And if you look at the numbers that we had earlier of those who are attending Christian colleges, subsequently to graduating, there's a parallel. Young people are choosing to go to schools, colleges, where their faith is affirmed and strengthened. So if parents have a burden for their children retaining their faith values, they have done absolutely the best thing they could do to promote that. They taught them at home. And if you think about what goes on in the family home, very often there are family devotions, the curriculum's religious, the outings, the trips are often religious focused, everything from going to Creation Museum to other religious historical sites. And you look at the interaction you have with youth groups and with other co-ops, which are often church-based. So the reinforcement that our program, as well as homeschooling in general, has for maintaining values is very, very strong. And the numbers bear that out. So I think that if you're burdened, you can rest easy that you are doing the best thing. Now, parents have the opportunity to, in loco parentis, in place of parents, to delegate. You know, fathers delegated to their wives to teach the curriculum. Then the families can delegate it to Christian schools or public schools or other that are in the fear and admonition of the Lord. Deuteronomy 6, 6, and 7. Good Old Testament reference there. But the homeschooling parents take this personally and very seriously. And there's the reflection of the outcome. Next slide, please. And here's what parents have to say. And if you're a parent who's burdened for the state of your child's soul, this is very reassuring. Homeschooling is not a guarantee that your child will retain your faith and your values. Certainly is not. However, the statistical probability that they will, if you train them up with commitment, love, and deference, is very, very high. And look at the blessing that these parents are speaking to. Very strong, strong. That's amazing. And as a parent, that is very comforting. Now that concludes my
That's
part,
it.
but if you,
That's
there it
all
is.
of our slides. I think I'm going to stop sharing and invite discussion from our audience, and we'll see the audience. I invite you to come on while I stop sharing, to come on and with your video on. Let me see if I can figure this out here. Getting there. How do I find stop sharing here? Sorry. You can start talking while I'm working on this.
We invite your questions and your comments, please. What did you anticipate the survey to say what it said? Does it encourage you? Does it not encourage you? Participants?
Ah, I found it. Stop share.
Well, I'm going to be rude and I'm going to just ask somebody their thoughts. And I'm going to just go left to right. Cheryl Hutchinson, would you like to share some thoughts with us?
I think it is comforting to know that not a guarantee, but it is nice to know that homeschooling reinforces that.
I appreciate your comments. Heather Rutherford, please, what would you add?
Struggling to unmute. This exactly as the previous person said, I actually find it very encouraging to hear and see these statistics about lifestyle and family connections. That those are things that were definitely on my mind when I started the homeschool journey and had no data to support the idea that that would be the result. So it's great to see.
Good. Well, thank you. Selena, you just popped up on the screen. Would you like to share your comments, please?
Sure.
You're going to need to unmute.
All right. I just want to say that we love homeschooling and we appreciate all that you guys are doing. And we like how we can tailor the lessons and everything for the kids and train them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. And Gavin wants to say hello to Mr. Anger. Oh, now he's all embarrassed. Okay. Anyway, hi, Mr. Anger. Now he's all embarrassed. Sorry. But yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Good. Tammy, if we could solicit your input, please.
Sorry, my unmute button wasn't working either. I appreciate the feedback. I'm not at all surprised. I think that this diploma program in general requires a higher standard, which tends to bring parents who are going to for me, initially my kids were in public school, and then we switched to cyber school. And then my sticking point for not doing homeschool until we got into a co-op where we had parents encourage us was the high school curriculum. It scared me, quite frankly. And so I'm really grateful for your program just because it gives me guidelines on what I need to follow. And the guidelines are a higher level than what a traditional, we're still online, we're still doing easy peasy curriculum, but it's not challenging enough for my kids. So it's great to have that extra level. And so to see the surveys that this is helping other people with that too doesn't surprise me, but it is helpful to see it on paper, to know that this program is working. And grader too.
Good. Thank you very much, Tammy. Heather, I think you're the only one that we have not heard from. Would you please share your thoughts?
I missed most of the talk. But what I did see, sorry, but what I did see, it's nice and it is reassuring. I agree with everyone else that it's nice to see that the survey results show what we believe to be true, and that we have some assurance of a good outcome from this homeschooling adventure.
Heather, I think you make an important point. I think that PHAA has always said that these are the benefits of the PHAA program. And this survey, not our opinion, but the opinion of those who have gone through the program, confirms that which we have claimed about it. So, and that encourages us on the board that that which we have promised, if you will, has been fulfilled. I think it's an integrity question and an integrity issue. You want to know that there's truth in advertising, so to speak. And we hope that this survey just confirms that. Tim, follow-up comments before we close and let Howard finish this out?
No, I think, I was encouraged even with the early slides of seeing how many young people did choose to use dual enrollment and AP courses and those types of things, and how they felt that the diploma program really benefited them when they went to college or got a job, that it was definitely worth the time, effort, and expense of being involved in the program. So that was gratifying to see.
And for those of you that don't know, Tim is the headmaster of a school, so he's very much involved with education. He's also one of our evaluators. So he speaks from a, quote, professional point of view. Howard, I'll turn it back over to you. You're muted, Howard.
I'd actually like to go back to the same slide that Tim just mentioned. It was a slide about all the homeschoolers who took CLEP tests, that's college level entrance examination to get college credits, AP courses, doing college work while they were still in high school, or dual enrollment, doing some usually community college courses while they were still in high school. And that really contrasts between something else that is happening in our culture, which is the rush to get kids into college. For the most part, if you have a really bright kid, you often rush them into college so that they get in at age 16. Back when we had our survey in 1999, one parent wrote, "My daughter is bright, and in 5th grade became bored with her schoolwork." I began using harder texts, and over a 2-year period, she had progressed to using 8th grade materials. Some courses were skipped, English. One science course was done over the summer, and her 7th grade math book was completed in 6 weeks. She simply took the test at the end of each chapter. It was necessary to move her up to higher text to keep her interest. Now she goes on. She then graduated early at age 16. This is where I would strongly caution parents. Early graduation is not proven beneficial, but instead forced a young teen into an adult world. If I could do it all over, I would still have moved her into harder texts, but not tell her she had skipped a grade, but rather have kept her in her age-appropriate grade. In PHAA, we say that the 4 years of English requirement means that you have to be in high school for 4 different years, because the most you can do in 1 year is 1 year. We do not try to get our students graduating early. We do that partly because of our own reputation. If somebody ever learns that a diploma program only takes 2 years, well, that takes that diploma program way down in their estimation. So 4 years is partly for our reputation, but it also helps because we slow the kids from graduating early. We don't hold them back. They can get college credits. They can get CLEP credits, AP credits. They can take community college courses. When they do go to college, they can have a year or 2 college done and they can finish college early, but we don't rush them into the adult world before they're mature enough to handle it.
Yeah, I would definitely second that. And if any high schooler who's taking a college course as a dual enrollment is paying half the price that they're going to pay as a college student. So it definitely saves money, plus they're living at home, getting the support from home rather than being pushed into, as Howard said, the adult world. So that's a much better option to stick out the 4 years of high school and graduate 17, 18.
Well, I think maybe we're done. Want to thank everybody for participating. I'm afraid I had some technical problems on this computer where I froze up a few times. The video quality, though we're going to record this, may not be perfect, but hopefully other people who are watching it on video can still get the gist of things when my computer froze up.
Could I ask a question before we are done?
We have time.
Okay. So my daughter did do the dual enrollment last year, and we were told that if she didn't go through the public school, meaning go to classes at public school, which she didn't want to do, that we actually had to pay full tuition and we weren't eligible for any kind of financial aid because she wasn't an actual student.
Well,
so it ended up costing us more money in the long run because she wasn't eligible for scholarship. She wasn't eligible for financial aid. So when somebody mentioned the half price, is that through a local school or is there another way to do that?
I don't know.
Yeah, our local community college here in Lee just as a parent going in and saying my child is in high school and taking this 1 or 2 courses, it was half the price. So I guess each college can determine their own rates. What do you think, Howard?
Well, I think that most of the time when people get discriminated against, it's because they didn't take advantage of PHAA. They'll treat PHAA as a school. Almost all these colleges do. They get our transcripts. They get everything from us in an official a way as possible. They just consider our students to be just like school students. And I think you would have gotten the discount. Maybe you did, but if you didn't go through PHAA, that was the big mistake you made.
Tammy,
No,
something else I need to add here, that we know of cases where colleges are not very much up on what's going on in homeschooling. And sometimes and I will use this word carefully, but pointedly, they discriminate against homeschoolers. Still, there's some of that going on. And the cases I know of, the parents have gone back in, often with help from either state legislators or HSLDA, and they've questioned that discriminatory policy and they have won. So my answer is that I think you need to just go back in and fight this because you are being unfairly discriminated against the law. And if you don't fight back, you're going to lose by default. And if you need help, HSLDA is there to help you. And I suspect that if you have a friendly legislator who represents you in the Pennsylvania State Legislature, they will help you because I've seen all of the above take place.
I have written dozens of letters to colleges on behalf of PHAA students, and I know exactly, I have a form letter on my computer, exactly what they want to hear. They want to hear us say this course would give the student an opportunity that would not otherwise be available to them. If we say those magic words in the letter as if we're the school that you're attending, that's when they give everybody the discounts and the admissions and treat you like a school student. They have to hear those words. So you really have to go through us. Don't just pretend we don't exist. Whenever they're asking for a transcript, don't just take in a parent copy of the transcript. Make sure you go through PHAA. Whenever they question whether you're dual enrollment, whether you'll get a discount or even get enrolled, go through PHAA and get us to write the letter that they're asking the school district to write. We'll do it, and they'll accept it.
But that we can help you. And if you just contact them directly, they will write that letter. And I would even recommend you go back retroactively because Howard will verify that your children were in PHAA. So they should even retroactively reimburse you. But Howard is there prepared to help.
It's hard to do things, get them to change their position retroactively. You really have to do it going in. It's hard.
Okay.
I often have problems. Once somebody makes a decision, puts their foot down, and then you try to appeal it or go around them, they just stick their feet in like a Missouri mule and they won't change. But if you go into the right way, and this is a warning of other people who are doing dual enrollment. First of all, get us to send the transcript. Second of all, get us to write the letter they want the school to have written.
Yes, and I did use the PHAA transcript. I had to send that in order for them to accept her as a dual enrollment student. I think it's just a lack of knowledge. I didn't know about it, and I'm not sure that they knew about it. I can try retroactively. It doesn't hurt anything. It did cost us several $1,000s for that first semester. So, it would be good to try. But I think probably just educating them for the future is a good idea too, because I didn't know to ask, and they just said, that wasn't, there was no financial aid available for students who were dual enrolled. They wanted us to go through the local high school because they were already providing that program. So, do you have a second for one more question?
Yeah,
Of course.
You had mentioned that some of the students go after high school, go do something else to be sure they want to pursue the particular career, and then go later. My daughter that I mentioned, who is graduated last year, did dual enrollment. She had to take a math class over the summer. She did last year. She struggled last semester, and she's struggling this semester. And one of the things she is wanting to do is just stop school right now. My concern and my husband's concern is if she stops, she may not go back. Do you have any opinions about that as far as the people who have stopped school and then continued or not continued? Is it a good idea, I guess, is my question.
I don't think I've had any experience of it. I just don't know.
I think that one of the outcomes of some of the things you bring up, Tanny, about the dual enrollment, I think that we as PHAA will want to just remind people who are in dual enrollment that we are prepared to write a cover letter to attach to your transcript. Is that fair, Howard?
That's true.
My comments, Howard.
I think in a lot of these situations where kids aren't doing well, they maybe try to tell us something, and we should always keep in mind that college is not the only way to succeed in life. And once they really get direction, once they're career oriented when they go to college, that's a whole different story than when they're just going to college, taking courses, and don't see where it's getting them.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth.
Oh, sorry, Jim.
No, that's exactly what I was going to say is, I think too often as parents, we have a sense that our kids need to go to college to feel success or to be successful. And if they're not focused on why they're there and motivated on their own to do well, it might be better to get into the workforce for a while and realize, hey, this either is not what I want to do with the rest of my life. There's a better path. Or they may find a field they really enjoy, but they need the education to, pursue it further. And then, and just maturity, some students just bloom a little later. And I mean, even on into their, early 20s before they really get motivated to, do well with college. So I wouldn't hesitate to give a year off or something and let her pursue something else. I think we need to go though, because we have a session coming up here at 1 o'clock, which is in 3 minutes. So
okay, bye everybody. Thank you very much for your
Bye-bye.
participation.
Bye-bye.